Herb Chester with you on this edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum podcast, and Roger Brown from New Hampshire Football Report is our special guest. And Roger, the NHIAA revealed the football brackets for all four divisions, and the first question I ask you is, any surprises for you?
No, everything kind of came out the way I had it figured, Sherm, or a lot of people had it figured. Sometimes we're surprised when these pairings come out because frankly, math is hard for some of us, and you don't put 2 points where it belongs or what have you, and you end up with a wrong matchup. And not to pick on the NHIA, but they've had to correct the pairings after releasing them a couple times in the last few years too. So I think everybody got it right this time. Everything looks good from what I can tell. So,
Well, I,
uh,
I, did, I did some permutations beforehand using the standings that, as of yesterday, and I had just a couple of discrepancies. I knew that. And let's go down the bracket. The top seed, number one seed going into the tourney is Bedford, so they get a bye, and they're in the top bracket. In the middle, well, I guess it's the bottom bracket. Number two seed, Manchester Memorial gets a bye, and number three seed, Pinkerton also gets a bye. They're in that bottom bracket. Because of the imbalance in the number of teams, that's what kind of makes it interesting, especially in the upper bracket. And let's start off with it wasn't a surprise, but it is in a way. It's number eight Winnicott hosting the number nine Exeter Bluehawks in not rivalry season, but a big game that gets has a lot of implications.
yeah, and I think by the time people hear this, this may be old news, but I do believe that game is going to be played at 5 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock on Friday.
Five. Now, what brings that on?
I just think there's something else going on at Winnicott High School, and they're probably worried about parking and things like that.
Huh.
Uh,
They were
so
they were considering pushing it to Saturday because I know Bill Ball likes playing Saturday football in the playoffs.
correct. Well, the NHIAA mandated that all Division One games be played Friday night, all playoff games except for Wyndham, which doesn't have lights. And even I've heard rumors that I don't know if this is true because they announced a noon kickoff there, but somebody told me that Wyndham's even exploring using portable lights, but I think they would still play Saturday. So I don't know. I shouldn't speak to that. I don't have anything confirmed there, but
The confusion there is now I understand you kind of want everybody to play on the same night, so there's no leg up. The coaching staffs aren't kind of shifting between Friday and Saturday and checking out their opponent. Some of that strategy, I guess. I guess Bill Ball just likes to play on Saturday because that was the traditional way back in 30 years ago when he started. So is that what brought on the change from the NHIAA allowing that to happen?
I don't know. They used to say that you couldn't play on Friday because SATs were Saturday. So that never made sense to me why you'd want to play a football game on a day where you have the SAT. So they always,
Yeah.
well, I guess we could say that was a bunch of BS pretty clearly because now the SATs are still Saturday and they're playing Friday. I'm assuming it's it's to get the best officials or the number of officials that are needed. Instead of having every game Saturday, that might help there, but that's just me guessing.
I buy that. I know that there is a shortage of officials. I guess the football, though, they are starting to recruit new people. I met one a few weeks ago. He did the clock, and so there's some new blood, young blood coming into the ranks of football officiating anyway. So maybe this is just maybe this is just to get unity or unify the playoff schedule, which makes sense too. I guess nobody gets a leg up.
Yeah, well, there's going to be at least two Saturday games because Bishop Girton's going to have to play Saturday because Nashua South will be at home Friday night using that field. So, despite the mandate, it looks like there's going to be four teams, Division One, playing Saturday.
Interesting.
At least the way it lays right now. The other good thing I think about playing the D1 games on Friday is it puts the spotlight on the lower divisions, the Saturday games. Although I would expect several teams in other divisions that have lights to petition and request to play Friday night.
Mhm.
As many uh, people out there like Bill Ball that would like to play Saturday. There's even more that like to play Friday and
Right.
don't want to play Saturday. So I think Sauhegan is one. I think Trinity, I've heard already, might play Friday or request to play Friday. So I guess check the schedule is the bottom line here.
TBA or TBD, depending upon how.
Well, and even if you see a 1 o'clock start, I would double check it, later in the week because these things tend to change uh, as we go, before kickoff.
Well, we'll go down the brackets. Let's start with D1. And again, Bedford has the bye in the top tier. The winner of the Winnicott Exeter game jumps from the frying pan into the fire and has to play Bedford in the quarterfinal round. In the next batch, you've got number 4 seed South taking on number 13 Londonderry, and then in notch down below there in fifth hole it's Bishop Girton, and they're hosting number 12 Nashua North. So that's the upper bracket, the top bracket. Let's just stop there. Do you think that's balanced? And do you see anybody? And let's go to Londonderry. They came in, they picked up that last 13th position in the rankings. So anything out of the ordinary there from what I just said?
I think people will be confused why Londonderry got in with 3 victories when there were teams that have 4 victories that did not get in. And again, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole and explain the NHIAA point rating system, but you get rewarded for beating good teams. And Londonderry beat Wyndham at the end of the year, which had 6 victories. That was worth a lot of points. That allowed them to leapfrog some 4-win teams that did not really beat many teams over 500, let's say, or most of their victories or all of them may have been against weaker opponents. So that's why Londonderry got in. One of their victories was against a very, very strong opponent in terms of number of wins. But that looks like a brutal bracket for Bedford. I mean, nobody wants to play Bedford, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But, if I was Bedford, the teams that I wouldn't want to see before the championship game, 2 of them are in that bracket, which is Nashua South and Bishop Girton, both of whom gave Bedford a run for their money during the regular season, particularly BG. South kind of faded in the fourth quarter, but it was early in the year. Also, I know Exeter didn't fare well against Bedford, but there's a lot of people I heard this weekend prior to these being released that thought that Winnicott was a team because of their style of play that might give Bedford trouble, primarily because of their offense and that they control the ball and keep basically they would use an Exeter game plan, which is ball control, keep the ball away from Bedford, score obviously, but and then just hope for a couple of turnovers or stops on defense, so the blueprint is there. So, Bedford may have to play Winnicott, and then, they don't have to play South and Girton, but they're probably going to get one of the 2 if I had to guess. It looks like those 2 teams might meet in the quarterfinals.
That was the only, if Londonderry hadn't made it. Now, again, I wasn't going through the ultimate tie-breaking procedures that the NHIAA did to get Londonderry that 13th position. When I was doing my little, like I say, permutations, I came up with South versus North.
A lot of people did, Sherm. Yeah, a lot of phone calls Friday. Roger, what do you have? And I'm like, well, don't go by what I have because we're all, we all get buggy-eyed looking at all this. But there was a lot of people that thought, matter of fact, the Bishop Girton coach called me Saturday, and he thought he was playing Londonderry, I believe. So, yeah, you weren't alone in that, Sherm.
In the bottom bracket, the number 2 seed with the bye is Manchester Memorial. They'll play the winner of the first round contest between number 7 Salem and number 10 Portsmouth Oyster River. And then in the bottom part of the bracket, again, the 3rd seed that has a bye, Pinkerton, will be taking on the winner of number 6 Wyndham versus number 11 Concord. Let's talk about that bracket for a minute.
I think it's To me, Memorial looks like clearly the team to beat. Pinkerton enters the postseason with 3 straight losses, so they're kind of limping in, both literally as well, because they have a bunch of injuries. Although Brady Spellman, who is one of the best running backs in the state, returned Friday night for Pinkerton after missing 5 weeks. He's a difference maker for sure.
Mhm.
So there is that element to it. But Memorial has already beaten Pinkerton, although it was a close game. And, I would say, it's Memorial's bracket to lose, so to speak. I would expect them, if I had to pick a team, I would pick them to advance. Now, that said, they got a dangerous second game. Salem or Portsmouth, it could be, trouble. Um, Salem seems to have got it together after some injuries mid-season as well. So I'm not saying they're going to breeze to it, but Memorial's really been playing very good football all year, and good to see them at least have the opportunity to get to the championship game, not have to face Bedford prior to that.
And the only other thing, when I was putting the numbers in the slots, I had Alvern playing number 7 Salem, but again, that based on going into that tie-breaking setup and the points.
Well, you were right, Sherm. Alvern would have been in if Londonderry had lost.
Okay.
It's just, as we discussed earlier, Alvern played 9 Division I games, and Londonderry played an out-of-state opponent. So they played 8 Division I games. So the math is a little different. Probably something they should look to change, because we seem to have a kind of a strange occurrence every year. We went through the Goffstown thing last year, where they won their 9th game at the end of the year and eliminated themselves by winning because they played a weak opponent. It was Central in that case. So I think what they need to do is the schedules come out. Everybody has 8 Division I opponents on their schedule. Some have 9, an extra game. They got to make that 9th game, whether it's against a D1 team or an out-of-state opponent, either count for everybody or just not count. Like right now, the out-of-state games don't count, so they should make the additional D1 games not count, I think, or make them all count, whatever they want to do. But they got to balance it out some ways, I think. I think the bylaws need to be changed, or they need to do something. Just too many quirky things happening the way they have it right now.
And again, the imbalanced number of teams, that doesn't help any. So the best solution would be get them balanced somehow. And
20 teams. They got to go to 20 teams. It's not hard.
yeah.
That would give you not only just an even number of teams in Division I, but you could bump one team down to D3 as well from D2, and they would eliminate a bye there, which they want to play football. They don't want to have an off week. So that would solve 2 problems. And scheduling would be much easier. Everybody would play the same opponents. We could get rid of a lot of flaws in the system by just if one team would go down. Really.
Well, what I heard from a reliable source, that one reason, or one of the reasons, that nobody wants to go down is that you can't get involved in the championship game or the playoffs, I guess it is, if you go down a division that next year. You have to wait out a season, correct?
That's only if you petition to go down, Sherm.
Okay.
So in other words, if they set the enrollment figure at 1,000, let's say, and your school had 1,100, so you were Division I, and you petitioned to go down because your program was having a hard time, then you'd have to sit out a year. But they could take the lowest enrollment in Division I and make that the dividing line, so to speak, so that's actually the highest enrollment in D2, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Or they, just for the good of football in the state, they could just allow a team to go down to balance out these schedules. To me, I don't know if they can't make an exception to get rid of all these flaws and improve things. That's kind of silly to me. But I think there's 2 teams under 1,000 at least, or 2 schools in Division I under 1,000. you can't really force them to go down. If they got strong programs, you want them to compete at a high level. So I'm not saying, I have my own idea who it would be if it was up to me, who I would ask to see if they were interested. But, you really don't want to force anybody down. It's just that, it's unfortunate you can't have an even number of teams, 20 like we had a few years ago. That was a good system where you got to play new opponents every year. Every 3 years, you played every team in the state. The problem now is it's getting harder and harder to find out-of-state opponents to fill that open date. That's why some D1 teams have to play other D1 teams, an extra D1 game. So, and I like the out-of-state games, don't get me wrong, but they don't work for everybody, unfortunately.
Right. Well, another thing, going back to years ago, and I can't remember what exact year it was, but when the Blue Hawks went from Division II to Division I, that first season we got our butts kicked, but then yet we went from worst to first and won the division the following season. So I mean, it's a learning curve if you go to up or down, whichever way it goes. I mean, so I like to just see a balanced thing, and so we don't have all this kind of wacky bracket system that we've got now. And well, look at what we got. First round, we'll just go over those games again. Winnicott hosting Exeter, Nashua South hosting Londonderry, Bishop Girton hosting Nashua North. That's the upper bracket. And again, Bedford sits back, waits, watches. They're waiting for the quarterfinals as the number 1 seed. Bottom bracket, it's Salem versus Portsmouth Oyster River. That's Salem, the home team, and Wyndham, the home team, against Concord. That bracket, because you got 2 byes, you got Manchester Memorial sitting back, waiting for Salem, Portsmouth Oyster River, and again, Pinkerton waiting for the winner of Wyndham Concord. In that first round, you see any upsets? I mean, usually there is one at least, but overall, I see a pretty straightforward 1, 2, 3, 4 at some point. But we'll see. What about you?
I think listen, first of all, as to Winnicott at Exeter, we all know you got to throw everything out the window there, because regardless of what happened in the regular season or during the regular season, in a 1-game rivalry like that, anybody could win. So am I going to be shocked if Exeter goes to Hampton and wins? No. Winnicott, I think, is the favorite though in that game. So other than that, the game, if I had to predict an upset, I would say number 11 Concord would have a chance to beat number 6 Wyndham. I think they played 2 weeks ago. It was a 1-score game. Wyndham has been playing terrific defense, like just almost ridiculously good defense, but their offense doesn't generate a lot of points. So, I think no matter what, that one's going to be close. And if Concord could get a break or two, be a turnover or maybe a big play on special teams or something, I think they've got a shot to advance there. So that would be the one, looking at the bracket, that I would choose as the most likely upset. Again, I'm really not counting that Exeter Winnicott matchup as an upset either way. I just, how that goes, Sherm.
I think that I know that the Winnicott Warriors have a kicker that they put a lot of faith in, and they can play, beat the clock or eat the clock, as the case be, at the end of the game, and just keep the drive going within 30 yards, 40 yards. This kid's got a foot, and he can boot the ball. So if they want to go for a field goal to win it, now last week they were on the 1-yard line, and they got stopped, and the clock ran out on them, so they lost their season finale. So Bishop Girton 24-21, holding the ball to the last second doesn't always give you that leg up, unless you got that leg. It can kick the field goal.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, it's Hampton. The Atlantic is right down the road. Wind could be going crazy. I've seen days where the ball doesn't even go forward. So that's probably could be the toughest place in the state to kick, really. with a swirling wind. I'm not saying it'll be that way that day, but who knows? I've been walking the beach pretty regularly, and winds picked up, and conditions will play a factor for sure this time of year, and moving forward as well.
And you coined the phrase in the first one. Now we'll call the second one the Battle of the Beach too.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. Sure, real true battle of the beach. Now we're over there.
Let's go to D2. The brackets are out there as well. Number 1, Sauhegan will be hosting St. Thomas, the Saints. Number 4, Pelham Pythons hosting Manchester West, the number 5 seed. Trinity Pioneers, number 2 seed, hosting Hanover. And then the Plymouth Bobcats, with their number 3 seed, they will be hosting Kingswood. So anything there that stands out to you? Is it going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4 there, or how?
I would say yes. Yeah, if I had to pick, it's going to be the chalk will advance. Like I told you earlier off air, the strange thing here is Plymouth and Trinity are in the same conference, and they have the same record. And Plymouth beat Trinity soundly during the regular season, but Trinity is the first place team, and gets the higher seed and the home field, etc. And Plymouth is seated below Trinity, again, despite the same record and beating Trinity. So I think people will look at that and scratch their head a little bit. Again, the reason is Trinity had a higher rating when all was said and done. They beat stronger opponents. But yeah, I think Kingswood, the coach at Kingswood, Corey Woodsum, is doing a fantastic job. I know people just aren't plugged into Kingswood around here, but if they were playing anybody but Plymouth, I would give them a really good shot at an upset. And not to say that they can't do it, but it's tough to win at Plymouth. The tradition that program has. I would say if you're asking me to pick an upset, I'm going to go with West over Pelham if I had to choose one there.
Interesting.
West program has really come a long way under Andrew Preventure. They were winless, I think, his first year and just not even competitive. And I think they had 6 or 7 wins this year. So, not an easy place to win at that school. So despite Pelham's, what they've done the last few years, I'm going to give West a puncher's chance to win that one. Other than that, though, I think the higher seeds will prevail.
And one thing we'll make clear is that in these other divisions, 2, 3, and 4, there are no buys. These are quarterfinal games that they get right into. All right, let's go to Division 3. Quarterfinal action, number 1, Monadnock taking on number 8, Southworth. Guilford, the number 4 seed, hosting number 5, Epping Newmarket. The Sachems of Laconia, the number 2 seed, hosting Newport. And then rounding out the bottom bracket is number 3, Campbell, and they'll be hosting Interlakes Moultonborough.
Okay, well, Monadnock is the only undefeated team in the division. Really kind of a under-the-radar story this year has been how good Epping Newmarket has been. They're really going to be competitive no matter who they play, I think, in this division. So I think what we have is potential, at least, for 3 pretty good games. I'm not sure Newport's going to be able to hang with Laconia. So I think Laconia is going to move on fairly comfortably. I think, Campbell's clearly the favorite. Monadnock's clearly the favorite, but I do see scenarios where Somersworth and Interlakes can give them games or competitive games. And the Guilford Epping Newmarket game should be terrific. That's the 4-5 matchup at Guilford. That's a toss-up. Should be a very competitive game. So
a nice clean go right from the quarters into the semis. Now in Division 4, they start at the semifinal round, and there's only 4 teams involved. Number 1, Hillsborough Deering against Farmington. They're the number 4 seed. Number 2 seed is Mascoma Valley, and they'll be hosting Raymond. Tell us about Division 4.
Well, the story there is you got to take your hat off to Farmington Newt. They never had a winning season before this year. They never made the playoffs. So congratulations to them. Um, Unfortunately, they're up against the number one seed who just beat them handily last weekend. Uh, frankly, Hillsborough, Deering, and Mascoma have been far away the two best teams in this division all season, and I would expect them both to advance fairly easily and meet in the championship game.
What I'm going to do is just mention where the final rounds, where this all will culminate. Now, for Division Four, it's at the Bank of New Hampshire Stadium at Laconia High School. That'll be on Saturday the 15th at 1 o'clock. That'll be the championship game. Now, as far as Division Three is concerned, they're heading for a contest at that same place, Bank of New Hampshire Stadium at Laconia High School, but that'll be on the 22nd of November, Saturday, and that's for 1 o'clock in Division Three for the championship. Division Two, that's all spread around this year, folks. We used to have it at UNH and get all the divisions together and get it all done in one day, but anyway, finals in Division Two. That's going to be at Pinkerton Academy on Saturday the 22nd at 1 o'clock, and then of course Division One. That'll be a big showdown for a couple of heavyweight teams, and that'll be on the 29th of November, Saturday, at 1 o'clock, but at Stellos Stadium. So you've been at the new improved Stellos Stadium. How's that gonna stand up for a championship game?
Well, I gotta wonder if a team like Nashua South or BG advances to the championship game. Are they going to allow the game to be played there? Because that one team would be playing on its home field. And same thing with Division Three. If Laconia advances, which is not far-fetched at all, they won their half of the conference. Are they going to allow Laconia to play at home? So I got some doubts that those games would be played at those locations if those teams advanced. Maybe they're going to stick to these locations no matter what. I just know, there's been years past where I know one year when it kind of was very strong, so was Exeter, and the game was scheduled to be at Exeter, and there was some kind of people not so happy about that early in the season, and I think they made some changes. To me, you wouldn't want to give one team home field advantage, but maybe they're not even thinking about changing. They could just stay put.
At this point, we'll just say this is what we have on the NHIAA website.
Correct.
Pretty good World Series, huh?
Is it over?
It's over, baby. But it was a good one. It was a good one. It was one for the books.
Yeah, it was excellent. Boy, Game 7. No matter who you're rooting for.
If Kirk's bat hadn't broken and that ball had gone over Mookie's head, it could have been interesting. You got to admit that.
I don't, and the Dodgers get these players like Mookie and Kiki Hernandez. I don't know where they get them from, but man,
Mookie Betts. I'm happy that he's got his 4 rings. I mean, he's the one that got away from the Red Sox. It should never have gotten away from the Red Sox. He was a franchise player, no doubt about it. And another guy I feel good for is Dave Roberts. Former Red Sox, great, but also just one heck of a nice guy, and he knows how to manage. Obviously, I mean, he had all that talent, and it could have blown up in his face, but he put the parts in the right places. And I also want to give kudos to Schneider, the manager of the Blue Jays. He's a classy guy. I mean, he went down in defeat, but he said to the fans of Toronto, "I'm sorry, I apologize." He had nothing to apologize for. That team did. They both put it all out on the field.
Hey, listen, Toronto played terrific. I'd say for the whole series, they were the better team. They won games by larger margins and things like that. And, like the Dodgers had to win the 18-inning one and that sort of stuff. And I dealt with John a little bit when he was in New Hampshire, AA, good guy. Didn't like rooting against him. Would have much rather beaten another AL East opponent again. So, but listen, Blue Jays,
you know what? After
very likable team.
It was, and after all those years of people saying the Toronto Blue Jays are going to be the World Series and the blah 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 blah, and every year they just kind of melted into the middle of the pack somewhere. I mean, it took them 32 years. I go back to that Joe Carter World Series where he was the hero, and man, it was good to see him back in it finally and being competitive. I was hoping. I told this story last week, I think it was. Talk about omen. I have this big blue jay that's been hanging around my yard, and he disappeared this summer. I haven't seen him all summer. Springtime, he was all around. Probably had a nest somewhere he was protecting. So anyway, he comes back before game one. I thought, hey, it's an omen. Sure enough, they win game one. I thought, well, maybe there is life in this thing. It'll go seven.
I thought it was going to go 6 games, but you know, uh, Toronto did have the 3-2 lead with 2 home games.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they were close, and the catch in the outfield and all kinds of stuff, but you got to nail it down in that situation. You got 2 tries to win 1 game, and I get it. If you're a Toronto fan, you think you deserve to win, and it was one play really.
Two questions though. Did you stay up for the 18 inning game?
Oh yes, no
Right.
question.
Yeah, I was there for the final out too, and my buddy down in Jacksonville and I are texting each other. And the only thing I had an issue with John Schneider, manager of the Blue Jays, is I would never, ever, ever let a player go 4 for 4 on me. I mean, 3 for 3. Ohtani is awesome, no doubt about it. But he's the type of player that if I'm the other manager, I'm going to say, hey, put it in his pocket or brush him back. I mean, the Dodgers, now your team, when you had a guy named Don Drysdale, he was a barber. He'd go after you. He just plunked it.
Yes.
He didn't give you that play. You didn't go 4 for 4 or 3 for 3 with him. No way. And you weren't going to be the hero of the game. I mean,
you didn't want to get hit by one of his pitches either.
Right. So, I mean, this is the thing that gets me. That was one strategy point. And matter of fact, I texted my buddy. I said, "This is where you walk him or brush him back." And sure enough, it didn't happen. He got his 4th hit, and he's on first base and whatever. But that was the only strategy point I really faulted the Blue Jays. And you think about 2 things. Big Papi had a comment during the post game. If Toronto hadn't signed Vladdy, they wouldn't have been there. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And if they had been able to take Ohtani and bring him in a couple of years ago, Katie barred the door. I mean, he is a once-in-a-lifetime type player. No doubt about it. Franchise player extraordinaire.
Yeah, I was worried about him pitching Game 7, to be honest with you, because if you follow LA or baseball closely, you know that he didn't really pitch much this year, and when he did pitch, it was 5 innings. So for them to go on short rest with him, I just didn't see that. I guess because he is who he is, I wouldn't have been stunned if he did what Yamamoto did, really. But I was nervous about his start. And it didn't turn out that way. I'm glad that they got rid of him, or they pulled him early. And
well, Game 7 was a bullpen game, one way or the other. Everybody on deck. The hot stove season begins, and the Red Sox fans are all speculating about what's going to happen where. But guess what? Bottom line is, it's who's got the biggest big bag of cash.
they got plenty of cash. Or what do you pay for a Red Sox?
Did you have anything for the 2-minute drill you wanted to add in?
I would just like to say, like you touched on earlier, I think we need to get back to having these championship games at one location. And if it's, if the smaller schools don't want to participate, or because their games are earlier, they want to play at Laconia, that's fine. But I know from talking to coaches that they'd prefer to play, at a UNH or St. A's or a place like that. So at least those 2 divisions, I think, should be at that location. And the other thing, real quick, these pairings should come out Sunday, like they do in a lot of other states, so these coaches can get moving. Even if you do the math yourself, as we know, it's not easy. You can screw up. And years ago, matter of fact, Exeter was one of the teams involved. They didn't release them until Tuesday, and everybody thought they were playing one team. And when the official pairings came out, it ended up Exeter was playing Bedford. They thought they were playing Pinkerton. So I just think you could spend an hour on a Sunday to get the official pairings out, so there's not so much of a guessing game for everybody. The coaches can get to work. Bill Ball is sitting around on Sunday waiting to see who he's playing. He's working, right?
bet. They could actually have an event where they could have it at a location, and like they do with the NCAA and things like that. Just have the guys and teams sit down in a stadium or auditorium, whatever, and announce the brackets. That would be
Sure.
that'd be something they could do. Make an event out of it. It's like just they do with the NCAA. That'd be kind of cool. 2 minute drill. I just want to say, uh, congratulations to the Exeter girls soccer team. They went into the tournament number one seed, and they got upended by our old rival, the Winnicott Warriors. They went into a double overtime and then into a shootout, and it was the Winnicott goalie's day to stop the shots, and now the season is over for the Blue Hawks, but the hard part was after the game, I was doing the public address announcing, going on the field and seeing the kids. I said to a bunch of them, don't hang your heads at all. You put it all out on the field, and that's all that matters. And, it just wasn't their day. But, hey, there's always next year, and there's going to be a lot of kids coming back next season. So, and Megan Young always has a fine team. NewHampshireFootballReport.com. And Roger will have all the pairings, and I'm sure you'll have some interviews with some of the coaches about what's coming up.
And don't forget, there are Thursday games for you people that really like your high school football. All the teams that did not make the playoffs in Division I will be playing Thursday night. So
Okay. All right.
we've got 4 other games that are on the website if you want to see who's playing who.
That about does it. So on behalf of Roger Brown from the NewHampshireFootballReport.com, this is Sherm Chester inviting you to join us for the next edition of the Seco Sports Forum podcast.